Color is abstract and incredibly elusive. I find it fascinating how objects and the environment around us are not inherently colored, but color is a perception created by the cone cells in our eyes being stimulated by visible light. Color is made by our brains making sense of the visible light entering our eyes. Without light, there'd be no color. Light, atmosphere, and the materiality of objects all impact our perception of color. When we look at an object, we're seeing the light that's reflecting off it. An orange appears orange because it absorbs all the colors in the spectrum, except orange, which it reflects. When the wavelengths of orange light enter our eyes, our brain tells us it looks orange. So using paint to replicate a perception of color, something occurring in our minds, it's incredibly abstract when you think about it. It's also super interesting to explore the color interaction of paint without representing something. There are endless variables, including the paint's opacity, the shade it dries, the texture and color of the ground underneath. Is the color reflective or matte? What is it placed next to, surrounded by, and how much of it is there? Intensity, tone, adjacent colors, and amount are all important in terms of how colors behave or appear. In the visible spectrum, there are generally warm colors, magenta, red, orange, yellow, and there are cool colors, violet, blue, aqua, green. However, each color itself can be warm or cool. Complementary colors, those opposite each other on the color wheel, so yellow, purple, blue, orange, red, green, give really strong contrast, and it gives a vibrancy. And they give the strongest vibrancy or zing when they're closest in tone. A tertiary color, so tertiary meaning three, red, blue, yellow, is when a primary, let's just say yellow, for example, is mixed with its complementary. So I'm going to mix, this is a cool yellow, I'm going to mix it with a warm yellow to make a mid-primary yellow. So that's highly saturated, very chromatic. To reduce this color, there are two ways of doing it. We can make it a tint by adding white. So we're reducing the saturation. It's less intense than that. So the other way to reduce its saturation is to add complementary. So we're going to mix purple, which is red. And I've got, use a warm red to get the best purple. And I've got ultramarine blue here. See, we're getting purple. So yellow purple represents the strongest tonal contrast on the color wheel. Yellow being the lightest, purple being the darkest. To reduce this yellow, to make it more dirty or dusty or darker, I'm going to add purple to it. See how it's gone kind of greenish in tinge? That's from the blue predominance in the purple. So add a bit more pink, warm it up. So this would be great for doing a shadow on a yellow thing. Rather than adding black, which kind of flattens or deadens the painting, it's really good to add a colors complementary for a shadow. Green plantain, green leather, warm blue perspex that's transparent, things that are yellow. So we're looking at a cool palette here, even though colors are quite acidic and hot. They're blues and greens and yellows. So it's limited on that side of the color wheel. Most colored things can affect other objects by reflecting their own light and color onto another object. It depends on their intensity, adjacency, and material. This is a nice reflection of the melon in the green perspex. And the green perspex also picking up the highlights of the green patent leather, which is actually, from my angle, looking kind of orange or red. Everything is green in here, but there are warm greens and cool greens depending on what it's reflecting. With translucent or transparent colors, light travels through them, projecting color. Whether projected or reflected colored light, the painting technique of glazing is really suitable for describing these elusive colors, like I did in this painting Skew. Glazing is to use thin layers of colored transparent paint. Some colored objects absorb light depending on their material, like rough or matte things, and their color. Black things absorb almost all the visible light shining on them. It's black. It's super rich and dark. It's a bit medieval. The melon's really pale and translucent. It's kind of nice with the pale green against the blue, but then also the green on this artificial green, and there's some really nice kind of aqua kind of blue reflection happening in the patent leather. The velvet is absorbing the light, and it's really rich and deep and black. Looking at the back of the cabbage, there's some nice reflection of the blue coming onto here. Also, even on the highlights of the black velvet, they're kind of infected with this pale blue, which is nice. And now the lightest light is definitely the milk, as opposed to before where it might have been elements of the melon. Yeah, inside the egg it's looking really pink and orange tints. This is reflecting blue. Finally, to complicate and to mix things up, to kind of get past assumptions and just show how color is highly elusive and completely relative, I want to try coloring these tonal still lifes using light gels. Yeah, so there's a few painters and artists that I really love, like Sacha Browning and Barbara Karsten, who use a lot of lighting and kind of control of still life environment to really change like the psychology and the kind of charge of the still life in front of them, with a lot of reflection and complementary colors and distortion. I think that's too much, too bright. Yeah, that looks nice.